Marc Gup, a real estate agent in Portland, Maine, really has his act together when it comes to running his real estate business. He is thriving despite the downturn, and he has some really unique ways of doing business that I think if you're a real estate agent, you could really learn by. And Marc has been serving the housing industry for almost 20 years. I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks so much for joining us today, man. We are excited to hear about you. I know that you're still setting the world on fire, despite what's happening around with the market and sort of sales being down. So tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and how'd you get in this business?
Yeah, so my name's Marc Gup, and I've been selling real estate going on 18 or 19 years now. And it was an interesting path how I got here. After graduate school, I worked with the special needs population, got into, was doing artwork, had a full-time art business, and then shifted directions with that, went into organizing and decluttering for people. I had a business called Clutter the Clarity. And then a lot of those clients asked me who I would recommend for a realtor. They said, Marc, we like you. You're honest. You show up on time. You work hard. We're looking to sell our house. And who would you recommend that would be similar to you? I have Lori coming into my office. Can you take my phone with you, Lori?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
That's fine.
Sorry.
No problem.
She's my work wife, AKA operations director, AKA my boss. So
she keeps you straight, man. That's good. We all have one of them.
She keeps me on track. So
yeah.
I got into it through really the back door, and enough of my clients asked me who I would recommend as a realtor. And I thought, gosh, I really should consider getting my real estate license. And that's what I did.
Wow. We go into so many people's houses and, I'm the one that's doing the exact opposite, calling people like you saying, hey, we got to get this place decluttered, depersonalized. And I mean, a lot of times, I guess you were even dealing with people that were hoarders. There's a lot of mental illness, right? I mean, this is like a serious thing. I mean, there was a television show, may still be out there, but how do you go into somebody's house and tell them like how to get rid of stuff?
Well, as an organizer and as someone who's decluttering, it's a very different approach than as a realtor, because as an organizer, I'm the good guy when I give advice. As the realtor, I become the bad guy when I give that advice. So the first thing I've learned as a realtor, I don't give that advice until once they hire me. And, sometimes I don't deal with a ton of hoarders. It's more people just living their life and they just become oblivious to all of the things around them. So we talk about, looking at it from a buyer's perspective and needing to picture their things in the home and not the current owner's things in the home. But on occasion, I will hire another organizer or stager. I might pay for an initial consult, but I won't give advice. And sometimes I've been in places where I'm like, I think I might offend this person if I say something. And I don't want to start out that way. I want them to like me and to feel good about the process. I don't want them to feel like, oh my gosh, this guy came into our house and is telling us what to do. Most of the time, I do. I'm like, all right, let's get rid of this chair. We'll get rid of this stuff on the bookcase. We'll thin things out, that sort of direction.
So what kind of art were you in? You said you had a art business?
I used to make mosaics, and I was working with found objects and dinnerware and pottery that was all damaged. And I would go to flea markets and buy things. And what's interesting about what I see that made me successful in that and what makes me successful in real estate, I would constantly be in touch with my suppliers of things because I would meet them at different flea markets or antique shows, and I needed them to give up valuable space in their van or truck to bring broken stuff with them that they were going to throw out. So it's just that I was in contact with them several times a year, and saying, hey, just want to let you know, this is what I'm looking for. If you come across any of this, I'm going to be at this particular flea market on this day. This is where I met them. And that's what I do in real estate. I'm in touch with all of my past clients, my sphere. I say 90% people, 10% property type of business.
You would go to these people at flea markets and tell them what you want, what you need or whatever, and they're actually scouring for you. Kind of like you're doing the same thing with your people, your sphere of influence, your clients, is telling them what you need or what you're looking for and maybe what clients need or buyers are looking for. So you sort of create all these people out there that are actually working for you and don't even realize they're doing it.
Yeah, that would be a pretty good summary of that. Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So in your business, what do you do mostly? I mean, are you mostly a listing agent or a fair amount of both?
I do both, mostly listing. When I started out with a couple listings and mostly buyers, as many folks do. And I primarily do like my closed sellers for this year so far. I've had 39 closed sellers and 9 closed buyers.
Wow.
So, and then I've got 4 pending sellers right now. So this year's a little bit down number unit wise. But I'm still, last
You're
year,
still crushing it.
I'm will be over 33 million so far for the year. So, and that's just fantastic. My numbers, not my team numbers. So
that's just you. That's your production.
My production, yeah.
And you've only been in the business for 20 years. And so,
less than,
yeah, less than 20 years. So I talk to agents a lot about, everybody's concerned about this lawsuit. I'm sure that's probably something you've been paying attention to.
Yeah.
And, in the industry, historically, it's been list to last, right? Mm-hmm. And buyer agents, people usually start out as a buyer's agent because it's the lowest lying fruit. It's hard when you've never sold somebody's house to get a listing or somebody to believe in you because you're like, well,
mm-hmm.
how many have you sold in this neighborhood even? So that's how some of the neighborhood experts get so good because they become popular in a neighborhood as the one that sells all the houses around there. But with the list to last mentality, and now with looking at commissions maybe being under attack, to where we may be talking about either buyers paying for their own commission, or the sellers actually pay directly the buyer's broker instead of passing it through the listing broker as they have for many, many years. What is your opinion on that? Do you think moving forward, list to last is still the desired, place to be as far as a real estate agent?
That's a great question, Todd. And I really have thought about that and appreciate you asking that. I've been one of those realtors. I work at Keller Williams, and I've had classes with other realtors or one-on-one conversations with other realtors. And the topic is usually, what is your value and what's your value proposition? And for me, I had to figure out what was my value and what am I worth and what is my work worth. So I will have the conversation with sellers and let them know, this is what I charge on the listing side. And then you get to pick what you want to offer the buyer agent on the buying side. And in Maine, we do have buyer agency, and the buyers sign an agreement with their buyer clients and saying, many agents don't have the conversation, so I think it's going to be harder for those people. I've been having this conversation for years and letting them know, On the buyer side, just so you, the buyer, understand this is what I charge. And the seller will likely pay a portion of it, but you might need to make up a difference between my rate and what the seller is offering. And that's worked out pretty well. So it's just clear from step one when I sit down with someone to meet with them. We talk about the difference between a customer and talk about the difference between a client. And when I sit down with a seller and we go over, I know what my value proposition is. And some people totally get it and some people don't. Those people that don't get it are might hire someone else and they're going to get less quality service. And in my opinion, will end up getting less money for the property. I just had an appointment a couple weeks ago. I was the highest compensation and the lowest price. And they did not hire me. They were a referral from a family member. And I watched it come down in price and then go under contract. What I offered then, what my suggestion was, price it slightly below market, offer a buyer agent a good incentive to attract more buyer agents, and for those buyer agents to help their clients write a really strong, solid offer. And that would really be the best thing they could do. But it's interesting. I mean, most people do hire me. On the rare occasion, there's going to be some folks that don't. So, and I was disappointed that those guys did not hire me because I helped the mother-in-law sell her house. She told them, she said, Mark is going to tell you what you need to do. You might not like everything he says, but he's going to get you top dollar and he's going to work really hard for you.
It's interesting that you said that you have been doing this for years. You kind of go in, your value proposition. I mean, I don't think most agents even know what that means. Unfortunately, I feel like, from as a real estate broker, I feel like we're missing a lot of good leadership. Sounds like you've had some, and you're smart. But you working on your value proposition, you're not going to get all of the people that you sit in front of, but identifying which ones you should even have and not have. But when you were saying that, you went in by saying, look, this is what I'm worth, and explaining to them in a state, and we're a buyer's agent state too, which I can't believe, Mark, that the whole country isn't this way. I mean, how you can expect to have dual agency with one agent is awful. I think it should be banned in all 50 states in DC. But when you were saying, years ago, what is coming up now, like real estate, the commissions are negotiable. It's the only thing we should be shouting from the mountaintop, right? Is that when you come in, you establish your worth, and then you explain what it's like for the other side, and offering up to them, like, what do you want to offer the buyer's broker in this situation, knowing everything that I've educated you on, and versus just going in with a number and you picking or you establishing it yourself. Now we know it's in hot water. But did you how did you have that insight years ago? I mean, that to me is like you were so far ahead of the curve. Yeah. Did you see this coming?
No, I didn't. But what I did see, and I'm glad you mentioned disclosed dual agent. I do not do disclosed dual agency. I have a policy that I don't do it. And my team, and I will answer your question. My team members do not do disclosed dual agency. I've passed many multi-million-dollar leads to team members because I won't do both sides of a transaction. And they may or may not get their offer accepted. If it's the best offer, it's accepted. If it's not the best offer, it's not accepted. I'm representing the seller. That if someone comes in unrepresented, they're representing the buyer. We make a very neutral chart. What's the price? What are they doing for inspections, if any? What are they asking for concessions? What does the financing look like? Are they cash? And if they're cash, do they have proof of funds? Are they financed? And if so, have we spoken to the lender? And we ask a series of questions to the lender, like when was the last time you pulled their credit. How old is this approval letter? Is it an approval letter, or is it a pre-qualification? All those kinds of things. And we have a comparison chart that we present to the sellers. And I will let them know this person is on my team as we get to that point. Sometimes it's just an immediate elimination. Sometimes it's not. But it really needs to come down to the client. And the buyer client for the other side, who is writing that best offer. Now, I also do pre-inspections on all of my listings, or the majority. So it usually eliminates that hurdle. I just scheduled a pre-inspection for a multi-unit that I have coming on the market. I've got a couple folks who don't want to do a pre-inspection. We talk about it. Most of them get the benefits of it. Some of them don't. I do let them know the buyer can still do an inspection if they choose to, but if they don't they might just choose to accept the inspection we did. And we have a neutral party who's an inspector who I use when I'm working with a buyer. So it makes total sense. Most buyers, we will feel very comfortable with the inspection report because we do it within less than 2 months. Sometimes we do it within a month, but if we do it within, we'll look at the things that might come up and then give us enough time to either address or get estimates for the items that might be a concern for the buyer. So we're super transparent in that whole process. So that's part of what I bring as a value proposition. And it's just knowing what I do. I host my own open houses. We usually will have a second person doing an open house with me, if there's any buyers that are not represented come through. I've been doing open houses Saturdays and Sundays to get the most amount of people into the property and the most exposure and the least inconvenience for the sellers. So it's just all those things pieced together. During the peak of COVID, I had a couple listings that went under contract, Todd, and the buyer agent never came through. And we do walkthrough videos on all of our listings as well. So early on in COVID, they were a little bit longer. We showed a little bit more detail. Now we're not opening the drawers and cabinets and cupboards like we did back then, but we still do it so they get a feel of the space, which is very helpful. So there were a couple agents that did that went under contract. Buyer agents, their clients went under contract. They watched my videos and they watched our video. They watched our videos and read our pre-inspection report. That was it. Okay. They never went into the property until the final walkthrough, half an hour before the closing. And my client said to me, Mark, you have worked really hard for us. And we have no problem paying you what we're paying you. We have a problem paying the buyer agent the compensation that they're getting. And I said, you know what? I get it. But they were the ones that brought us the best offer. And that's what we've agreed to. So I'm not surprised that this lawsuit has come about. And I will say not all realtors are created equal. And some of them, I've had some listings. I had a listing last year. My clients bought a property. It was a temporary house for them. They needed to move into the community. There was nothing on the market the spring of 2022. And they decided to buy that house as a holding pad until they found their dream home. So we bought that house in the spring, found their dream home in the fall, and then put the house that they had first bought back on the market after Thanksgiving. And I said to them, you know what? This is my third transaction with you, and they weren't inexpensive properties. It was over 900, 1.6 million, and then, another. Then we sold the one that they bought for 9, and the market had changed. I said, I'm going to take a lesser commission on the listing side. However, I think we need to offer the buyer agent more of a commission. Now, I will tell you, I don't think there's too many people that you can talk to that are realtors that would be doing that. But that's part of the value proposition. And those people are friends now. I helped them move from out of state. They interviewed some top agents when they came, and they decided to hire me. And they saw my approach to stuff. So I think that is very telling. So
yeah, you are a professional, man. I tell you, just listening to you talk, I mean, I wish I could just jar it up what you say and ship it out. And, when people are thinking about buying or selling a house, that they could just hear your response, because, and one of the reasons that I believe that we have such a bad name, and there are multiple reasons, but there are great professionals like you out there. The unfortunate thing is there's just not that many. And that's fortunate for your business. It's bad for our industry because, and I've said it before, what we've done, I mean, it's such a low barrier to entry. Then we gave up our management. The leadership, it was based on numbers of how many agents are in each brokerage, not actual, quality. But what you just said is identifying in an honest, as transparent as you can. I mean, it's counterintuitive to people that are in the industry to speak the truth, but it's the most important thing to put out there. Is that, and what I mean by that is other agents certainly don't want to hear you talking like this, but the clients need to hear it. They want to hear it, and they should hear it, and that's why you're so busy. But these buyers agents, man, I wonder, what the heck do they do? What have they been doing? A lot of them. We came through, we'd have open houses, we'd have standing room only. The people would basically beg us for the house. They found the house, not their agent. The agent told them just to go to the open house. They didn't walk them through themselves. They haven't even seen the open house. They call up and they say, my client wants to put in an offer. Is it worth it? Should I even put an offer in? Because, I've written 15 offers for these people and I haven't gotten it. I don't want to waste any more of my time. I'm like, what? So let me ask you something, buyer's agent. Have you seen the house? No, I haven't seen the house. How can you even put in an offer on a house, and how are you even asking me if it's worth it if you haven't even put your eyes on the house? What are you doing for these people? How are you even helping these people? And I think this is what's coming to a head, and I think that's why so many people are angry about agents. They get to the settlement table, they look at the amount of commission, they just spent all their cash, they were gifted money from mom and dad to get it, right? And then all of a sudden now they're looking at the expensive agent commission that their agent's getting, and they're like, what the hell did you do? I mean, why? I just scraped all my money together to afford this thing. You've done nothing but sell me upriver, right? And in a lot of cases, they're more grateful to you, the listing agent, than they are their own agent. So, I mean, Mark, that's what you just defined is gold, and why we need to shout from the rooftops the importance of our profession, the importance of good representation. So what do you think as far as, going down the path, because you've said so much, such great stuff, the relationship's more important to you than the money itself. And you probably have never missed a meal because of it. You probably do way better than the average agent.
But actually in the top 0.5% in the state of Maine.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't doubt that at all. And that's putting your client's needs in front. What do you tell the public that, is confused? What do you tell the public? I know you go in and you do your value proposition on the people that call you to come in and refer you, but what message do you have for the public at large in, saying to them that they don't really know what they're saying when they're saying that you can do life without a real estate agent? What is the message to them?
That's a good question as well. So I had an appointment this past fall. People had been in their house for over 50 years. Their adult son reached out to me and said, Mark, my parents want to sell their house. They've told me they don't want an open house and they are thinking about doing it on their own. I said, all right, I always am up for a challenge. And they had moved out. They weren't living there. So I sat down with them. We ended up putting it on the market, doing an open house, had 18 offers. It was listed at, and I asked them what they thought their house was worth. They said, after we went through everything, and they said 350. And I said, well, you know what? I think it was probably worth 350 a couple years ago, but I would recommend 395. We looked at the absorption rates. We looked at where the gaps were in the available inventory and priced it accordingly. We had 18 offers and they sold for I think it was 472 or 476. They were thrilled. And their son said to them, now, do you think you could have done this on your own? And it's like, when you take the time, and I'm not I have administrative staff that does they get my paperwork together. I think one of the challenges today is that people have gotten so accustomed to DocuSign, these electronic signatures, they don't go through the contract and they don't explain it. They just say, here, read this, sign electronically. 2 minutes later, you've got a 4 or 5 page contract signed by your client who really doesn't know what they just signed. And that's where problems come up. I still take the time to go over step by step by step. And I find that that's very helpful. And I always treat people the way that I would like to be treated. And we just interviewed someone for our team, and he's actually my massage therapist. And I've been talking to him about real estate for a year. Very personable, very honest, hardworking. And I said to him, have you ever thought about getting into real estate? And, each time I'd see him, we'd talk about real estate. And he just got his license. We had our first appointment with him last week. He's going to come again on Tuesday. And I think he's going to has the potential to do very well. He's not a high, if you're familiar with the DISC profile, he's not a high D. However, he is social, hardworking, has a kid, is married, gets it, and has a strong work ethic. And I said to him, the important thing, when we left the meeting, I said, the most important thing that you can do is treat every single one of your clients like your mom, and that you are helping your mom either sell a house or buy a house. And if you do that, you will probably make the right decision most of the time.
Yeah, that's great advice. What do you tell the agents that are starting out? I mean, like, what do they do? Because what I find is a lot of them come into the industry, they're undercapitalized, like every business, right? I mean, you're self-employed. So they get this misconceived sort of notion that you're going to get into the real estate industry. It doesn't cost a lot of money and that it's easy, right? And it's exact opposite. It's self-employment. 80% of sole proprietorships still fail within the first 2 years. Doesn't matter, what industry they're in. They have to be capitalized at some point. But what do you tell people now? They come and join your team. Like, this is a perfect example of new hire. What should they be doing to get the biggest results in the fastest amount of time?
So first, what I said to this person was, you need to have a minimum of 6 months reserves. in hand. So you're not like, oh my gosh, I got to sell a house, and you are then compromising your client's best interest because you need a paycheck. Not
Bingo.
okay. And then the other is, and I still do, I'm very old school, Todd. Um, I built my business through door to door stuff, and I still do that. Okay. I do some social media. I don't do as much as others. Lori, my operations director, we'll put our listings on. We do Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. That is on our business plan for 2024 to step up our social media presence. However, and I'll tell you, we get about 15,000 hits on our YouTube channel every 2 weeks, which is great. We have not been doing Instagram a ton, but we are going, that's in the plan. Okay, it's in our business plan for next year. Um, my philosophy is regular contacts, whether it's through mailings, door to door, phone calls, um, face to face stuff. Last week I met with 7 different clients, either popping by their house or out to lunch or out to dinner or a walk or something. And I scheduled that into my calendar. I schedule several hours of lead generation every day. Sometimes it might need to get shuffled. Um, I do a newsletter that goes out to over 5,000 homes. It goes 9 times a year. We combine November, December, January, February, and August, September, because those aren't the super busy, or those aren't the busier months. And my newsletter for November, December was about gratitude and how gratitude is an action. And how do I express gratitude to my family by not nagging? How is gratitude an action for my health? I go to the gym. I take care of my body. How is gratitude an action that I have food on my table? I volunteer at the food pantry once a week. I donated $20,000 to our food pantry this year. I donated $10,000 to our Animal Refuge League. I just did a $10,000 donation to Equality Maine. I'm doing a $5,000 to the Portland Recovery Center. And we just adopted a family for Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever, a family in need during the holidays. So this Saturday I went out, don't know who the family is, but 3 coats, 3 boots, tons of toys for their kids. There's a 9-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 14-year-old. I am very, what I would say, spiritually based. I know that I will be taken care of, and that however you want to put it, God, universe, higher power, whatever, I've been very well taken care of. And I feel it's my obligation and duty to give back to my community. I really believe that. So I was at the food pantry on last week, and it's a bit, the week before Thanksgiving, we had 85 families there. It was crazy busy. So one of the other volunteers said to me, Mark, I got your newsletter and I really liked the topic of gratitude. And it was really, it was very nice. And I think that, it feels really good to be able to give that away. I've not always been in this position. I started out, I was telling someone when I was a little kid, I remember on the holidays, I got 2 Matchbox cars and a little plastic, racing train to put the Matchbox cars on. That was not a lot. My mom stayed at home. My dad did not make a lot of money. I told myself that was not going to be my position, and that when I was in the opportunity, if I didn't have the money to give, I've always given my time. Now I have more money than time, but I think it's that time that's also really valuable. Like with this shift, tomorrow we do our business planning for 2024. And I know everything that I'm reading is the number of units are going to be down, and that's okay. Um, I really don't plan on adjusting my goals from what they were for this year because, when I got into real estate, it was right before the crash and, in like 2008, I think it was. And I remember how crazy it was. I showed a friend's daughter a property, and one of the bathrooms had a green hose coming through the shower, and that was the shower. And I said to them, "This is a crappy house. I cannot let you buy this. This is ridiculous. You do not need to be buying this house." And, that fast forward, you know, almost 20 years later, I just helped her parents sell their house. I just listed a property this week, maybe 12, 15 years ago. I helped these people sell a property. At that time, we weren't doing pre-inspections. It was the buyers for it had 100% VA loan, and the septic system failed and it needed a new septic system. Okay. So the buyer agent and I, and we split a huge chunk of what a septic system would cost. We took that off of our compensation, and the sellers kicked in a little bit and the buyers were able to get a credit. So the transaction came together. And my client said to me, Mark, I really don't know you in any other way other than a realtor. As a good realtor, their house was an expired listing, and the other agent who had it on the market at the time didn't even go in the house before they priced it, just FYI. And I explained to them what I thought it was worth and why, and but basic, and I did really good. I think I did good customer service for them. Well, actually, very good customer service for them, not just good. Actually, excellent customer service. But I didn't really know them. They weren't like friends of mine or anything. And they called me to sell another property, and then they called me to sell this third property. And I do believe that when you do a good job, that's huge for someone. And then just staying in touch. Those people moved out of state. I still stayed in touch with them. I really liked them. They were nice people. And, I think those are the important things. So I just feel, I like to think that I do the right thing and that most people should do. I think many people know what the right thing is. I also think there's some people that do it and there's many people that don't. That's an important takeaway is you've got to really do the right thing for people. And someone is not just a transaction. So.
Yeah, Mark, that's all incredible. I mean, one of the things that you said in there was, they have to have new agent coming in has to be able to sustain themselves for 6 months. And one of the things that you said, because you're not going to serve your client well if you don't, because you're not able to put your client's needs above yours when you're desperate, right? When you're desperate for the money. And I think that's a lot of agents, not just in real estate, but just in business general. If they're not grounded right and they don't have their finances in order, maybe not making a bunch of money, or maybe they can't eat out. They have to eat in and, have some, low budget meals. But the fact of the matter is to be able to sustain, to live to where you can put your clients' needs truly above your own. And it's interesting because everything that you're saying, you value people and look at, people for who they are inside, not just, a dollar bill. And I think that's probably, I don't know how much you realize that, how valuable that asset is, to others. But I think it just comes natural to you, man. But I'll tell you, can't thank you enough, Marc, for sharing your story, sharing your insight and your keys to success. And we're gonna, if anybody's listening, reach out to Marc. I mean, Marc is with a broker that he can help agents all over the country, and can point them in the right direction with a great organization. So if you guys are listening, you're in the real estate business, whether you're a new agent or whether you've been around for a while but never experienced what a downturn looks like, and you're starting to be confused as to how do I step in and keep myself up, keep my mental state up, to know that even Marc, I mean, listening to Marc, he's planning his budget for 24, and he's not planning on giving up on any of the things that he has established as gifts, things that he gives away, his time, his money, to really put out there the good deeds to keep, it coming back and being multiplied. And so I think great inspiration, man. Thank you so much, Marc. Any final words of wisdom?
I think that I think this is many thoughts, but I will say I think self-care is huge. I meditate every morning for half an hour before I come downstairs for breakfast, and I get to the gym 4 to 5 times a week. So, and that is important because this can be a high stress job. And if we do not take care of ourselves, we certainly cannot take care of our clients. And that is, and now I will also tell you, I am horrible about taking time off and vacation. I've just scheduled a week in January, a week in February, and a week in March. So January, I'm going to New York City. February, I'm going to Costa Rica to do some volunteering, to work with the elderly population. I like doing community service work. That's enjoyable. I'm paying to do it. I did that in Guatemala a couple of years ago, pre-COVID. I love doing that. It's very, very rewarding. And then in March, I'm taking my operations director to Bermuda I asked her what she wanted for Christmas. Last year, I bought her a beautiful Tiffany bracelet. She's been with me for over 10 years now. And I said, I want to get you something that you want. Would you like another gift from Tiffany's, or would you like to go on a vacation? Your call. I'm going to do whatever you want. And so we're looking at trips to Bermuda. But I think it's really important to acknowledge the people that help us get to where we get, to give back to the community, to give back to ourselves. And, it's just, it's not just a transactional, have sold this many millions of dollars of, I'm on track to with my pendings, close to 34 million for the year. And that's not quite as good as it was last year, which I'm a little disappointed on, but I have some listings that are going to be coming on next year. I advise my clients, let's hold off, because people are sort of in this little quiet standstill. Let's get you the most amount. And unless I have some windfall, we'll see what happens. But I do believe those last things that I shared are really important for folks. So.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll do this again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. What do you think about Marc? Pretty cool guy, huh? Man, I tell you what, it's so nice to know that there are people in the industry like him that take this business so very seriously. If you like the video, you can let Marc know that you did by hitting that thumbs up. Leave your comment below. I'd like to know, what did you like about what he had to say on how he runs his real estate business and his outlook for the future of the industry. If you haven't already subscribed, consider doing so now. Smash that alert bell and you'll know every time we upload content to Housing Market Insider.